Sonic Labyrinth is one of the most infamously bad games in the series, but does it really deserve the hate it gets, or is it secretly underrated? Well, today I'm answering exactly that. This is probably the most analytical video of Sonic Labyrinth you'll ever see. So in order to answer the question, we first need to know what we're dealing with here, because there's a good chance that the people watching this aren't Sonic Labyrinth experts like I am. Looking at the Japanese manual for the game, the story is pretty dumb. Eggman is mad at Sonic's speed, then swaps Sonic's shoes with his own Dr. Eggman's Deluxe Speed Down Boots, which he made with the power of the Chaos Emeralds, while Sonic was sleeping. Literally tells Sonic that he needs the Chaos Emeralds to get them off, and then starts building a big labyrinth. Honestly, I would make fun of this plot, but I don't even think this is the worst it gets when it comes to Sonic games. Okay, so there's 4 zones in the game. Labyrinth of the Sky, Sea, Factory, and Castle. Oh good, well this is gonna be quite a short game, right? Fuck! Come on! Fantastic video game. It took me like 2 hours. The controls are actually surprisingly straightforward here. First off, you can, well, walk. And I mean walk. You can choose between a slant and a stride style in the options, but they basically just change the direction Sonic walks in when pressing the D-pad. Wait, why does he walk faster or moving horizontally? What is this game? So far, not very interesting, but you also have the spin dash, and this is probably the most fun and equally broken part of the game. The spin dash is going to be your main form of getting around in this game because it's so genuinely unnecessarily fast that it's actually comical. The fun mostly comes from quickly uncurling and chaining your spin dashes together, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's actually pretty fun.
Greetings, mortal. The great spirit of crappy video games, am here to warn you about the fate of the universe. If you keep having fun playing Sonic Labyrinth, the world as you know
We're not doing a skip. In order to be able to pass through the goal, you're gonna need to explore the stages for 3 keys. These are usually scattered all around the level, so I was expecting them to be a pain in the behind to find, but that actually wasn't the case most of the time. Usually they being quite reasonable spots that require just enough exploration to be fun without getting frustrating. And don't get me wrong here, it's far from the best level design out there, but for a puzzle-based spin-off game, I was actually expecting a lot worse. There's a boss fight at the end of each labyrinth, and they're... Yeah. The only one that has any depth to it is the final boss. I'm sorry I'm spoiling the final boss for you. I'm sure you wanted to go into this game blind. It's the only boss to have 2 phases. They're not very good, but I guess it is something. A lot of the bosses in this game are just way too simplistic. There's very little thought involved in beating these guys. Don't ask me how I died so often in the first boss, okay? It wasn't my fault, honest. Hey, sorry for pausing the video here, but some of you may have noticed that I have memberships now. I'm just here to say that joining is completely optional and this will not affect the content on the channel at all, but if you ever wanted to support the channel, now you have a great way to do so. There's only 2 tiers, and the first only costs $1 and gives you custom LukeStation emojis, a special badge next to your name, and your name at the end of every single video, and the other gives you all the previous stuff, but you also get to have videos a day early. So if you don't want to join, that's completely okay, but for everyone else, I just wanted to inform you because it may be something you're interested in. Alright, let's get back to the video. I want to quickly talk about this game's design, because game design-wise, Sonic Labyrinth is surprisingly not awful. This is a good example of a game that does everything it can to be well designed, but still manages to fall flat because the fundamental idea behind the game isn't fun. In this case, a Sonic game where the concept is to not go fast is directly contradicting the audience that bought the game. But that doesn't mean you can't go fast in Sonic Labyrinth. In fact, the game designers kind of try saving the concept by pushing the idea of going fast. There's a principle in game design that comes down to subtly guiding the player into playing the game in the most fun way possible. Whether you know it or not, your favorite games are probably pushing you to play the game the way the developers intended, and Sonic Labyrinth does so as well. There's no denying Sonic is slow. I mean, it's gonna be one of the first things you'll notice about the game when you actually no balls boot it up. But this does come with a cool consequence. Players will naturally want to figure out ways to go faster. And how can they do that? Well, by abusing the spin dash and making the game more fun to play. So by making Sonic extra slow, the game encourages players to move faster. Isn't that crazy? And this isn't even the only example of this. Every level features a time limit, so there's already an emphasis placed on completing stages as quickly as possible. And this also makes for a great way to reward players for other behavior as well. You want players to pick up the keys? Reward them with some extra time when they do. Do you want players to attack any enemy they see, considering they they can also hold keys in them, reward them with some extra time when they defeat an enemy. You don't know what's so crazy about this? This isn't even scratching the surface of the game design in Sonic Labyrinth. I mean, the amount of stuff I could still talk about is just... it's scaring me, quite frankly. But good game design in one area doesn't necessarily mean good game overall, because unfortunately, Sonic Labyrinth suffers from a very strange difficulty curve. Sure, the first level is the easiest, and the last level is definitely the hardest, but then everything in between that is just a mess. Look at this speedrun of one of the last levels in the game. This can't be real. Unfortunately, especially the boss fights are like this too. I died on the first boss like 4 times in a row and then beat the third boss on my first attempt. The labyrinths themselves are the biggest offender though. The level design doesn't follow a gimmick-based structure like a lot of the previous Sonic games where each zone has a unique gimmick that is only seen in that zone, but instead has more of a collectathon structure where gimmicks slowly get introduced throughout the game and can still show up even in the final act. So you'd think that the difficulty would scale quite naturally with it, but that's somehow not the case. Some labyrinths are really huge with a lot going on, and others are just really tiny with barely any obstacles or gimmicks. But there isn't really a logical structure to the location of these labyrinths. They're just all over the place, and I definitely think this jarring difficulty curve is Sonic Labyrinth's biggest flaw. I also want to quickly talk about the music in this game, because it's actually not half bad. In fact, it kind of stands out from the other OSTs on the Game Gear. It has a slightly different style to the other Sonic games. It's a lot more funky and swinging than the rest of the series. The fact that there's so little Sonic Labyrinth remixes is an actual crime, because this OST is legitimately underrated. One odd thing about it though is that it doesn't really have a consistent tempo. How did they mess that up? It sort of stutters and lags a bit, and that definitely isn't due to the Game Gear alone. Maybe it was done to give it a more natural, real-time feel? I'm not sure, but it's quite odd. So I guess we should return to the question at the very start of the video. Is Sonic Labyrinth underrated? Well, I definitely think it gets dogpiled way too much for just being okay. It kind of reminds you of the hate for Sonic Unleashed, oddly enough, where people bashed the Werehog for the concept alone and not the actual gameplay. While I do think the concept of a Sonic game where Sonic isn't fast is quite stupid, the designers really tried saving it by pushing a quicker gameplay style, and I think it at least deserves some kind of respect for that. I'm not sure if I actually convinced anyone to check out the game after this video, but hey, it's stupidly short, so why not check it out, right? Same goes for watching more of my videos.